Welcome to Value Vest Daily. Okay, let's just jump right into it because today was an absolute whirlwind. I mean, imagine this. You're holding a stock, and in one single day, one single government announcement sends it completely vertical. Well, that's not a what-if scenario for anyone holding HIMS and HERS Health today. We are talking about a massive, news-driven surge that has everybody asking the exact same thing. Is this the start of a real, honest-to-goodness 10x growth story, or is this just another flash in the pan? Stick with me because we're going to break down every single piece of this.
Just look at that number, 13.7% in one day, closing at over $24 and still moving after hours. This wasn't a slow crawl. This was a rocket launch. And it all boils down to one word: peptides. These little things are at the center of the modern wellness boom, and a potential shift in how they're regulated is what's causing all this chaos. So the big question we're tackling today is, what happened? And is this move for real?
All right, before we get into the weeds, you know the drill. Our standard but super important disclaimer. What we're doing here is for educational purposes only. I'm breaking down the information, the news, the data for you, but this is absolutely not financial or tax advice. Please always do your own homework and talk to a pro before you make any investment moves.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to unpack what I'm calling the peptide bombshell, the actual news that lit this fire. Then we'll look at HIMS' unique strategic position and why they're the ones catching all this heat. After that, we'll get into the financials to see if the company is actually healthy. Then the fun part, we'll explore the bull case. Is a 10x return even possible? Before we get too excited, we'll balance that by weighing the risks. And finally, I'll give you my final verdict on what this all means.
All right, let's get right into the heart of it. Section 1, the peptide bombshell. This is all about a huge potential shift in the rules of the game that could blow a brand new market wide open.
So, what was the actual news? Well, the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, led by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announced that they and the FDA are going to hold a big advisory meeting this summer, kicking off in July. And what are they talking about? They're going to review and potentially ease the restrictions on more than a dozen of the most popular peptides out there. We're talking about the compounds that are at the cutting edge of wellness and anti-aging.
Now, to really get why this is such a lightning rod, you have to understand the backstory. RFK Jr. has been a huge advocate for peptides for a long time, even talking about his personal use on major podcasts. This gives this whole review a ton of political momentum. He's been extremely critical of the restrictions put in place back in 2023, even calling them illegal. His argument is that banning them didn't stop people from wanting them. It just forced millions of Americans into a sketchy black market, buying unregulated stuff from who knows where with zero quality control.
And check out this list. These aren't just some minor compounds. We're talking about the heavy hitters. You've got BPC 157, which is everywhere in the fitness world for tissue repair. You've got GHKCU, used for skin and hair. Epitalon, which is being researched for its serious anti-aging potential. This list covers the core of what the entire wellness community has been trying to get their hands on for years. This slide right here, this is the whole story. Right now, these things are stuck in FDA Category 2. That do not compound label basically means do not touch. It forbids licensed U.S. pharmacies from making or prescribing them. The big shift, the whole reason for the stock jump, is the move towards Category 1. That would be the green light. It would mean licensed, regulated pharmacies in the U.S. can legally make and sell these things with a prescription. It brings the entire industry out of the shadows and into the mainstream.
And politically, this is being packaged very intentionally as a Make America Healthy Again or MHAHA initiative. The argument is simple. It's about giving Americans safe, legal, and regulated access to these treatments instead of forcing them onto shady websites. It's about creating a safe, American-made supply chain.
Okay, so a massive regulatory door might be about to swing open. But why did HIMS stock specifically become ground zero for this explosion? That brings us right to Section 2. HIMS' strategic position. This is where a huge macro trend meets a company that was ready and waiting. It all starts with this number right here, over 2.5 million subscribers. Let's be clear, HIMS and HERS is not some tiny startup. This is a telehealth giant. They built this massive direct-to-consumer machine for everything from hair loss to mental health. That's not just a mailing list, it's a built-in army of customers who are already actively trying to improve their health. And this just shows their genius. This wasn't luck, it was pure strategy. Step 1. Earlier this year, they quietly bought their own peptide manufacturing facility. Step 2, that means they are vertically integrated. They own the whole process. They control the supply, they guarantee the quality, and this is the big one for investors, they control the profit margins. And step 3,
They can flip a switch and start marketing these new legal products directly to those 2.5 million people. It's a perfect closed-loop system.
This is exactly why the market went nuts. Wall Street is already calling HIMS the most likely public play for peptides at scale. And it makes sense, right? Who else is there? Name another public company that has the brand, the telehealth platform, the giant subscriber base, and their own factory ready to go. You can't. They are literally in a league of their own here.
So let's talk about the potential dollar signs. We are not talking about a little hobby business here. Analysts are throwing around numbers like $500 million to over $1 billion in new revenue from this. And the magic word there is recurring. This fits perfectly into their subscription model. It's not a one-time sale. It's a sticky, high-margin business they can just plug into their existing platform.
Now, a great story is one thing, but if the numbers stink, it doesn't matter. So let's get into Section 3, the financial picture. We need to see if HIMS was already a healthy company before this whole peptide thing fell into their lap.
So let's start at the top. The growth here is just incredible. For 2025, they did $2.35 billion in revenue. But look ahead. Their own guidance for 2026 is between $2.7 and $2.9 billion. This is a company that's already growing like a weed, and that's without even counting a single dollar from a potential new peptide division.
And let's break that down a little more. For 2025, revenue growth was an insane 59% year over year. But here's the kicker. They're making money. Adjusted EBITDA was a solid $318 million. Net income, $128 million. The most important line on this slide is that last one, already profitable. This is not some pie-in-the-sky startup burning through cash. This is a real, profitable, fast-growing business that just got handed a golden ticket.
Okay, now for a really interesting piece of the puzzle, the short interest. Right now, about 35% of all the tradable shares are being shorted. That means a huge number of people are betting that the stock is going to go down. But when you get explosive good news like this, all those short sellers can get trapped. They're forced to buy back shares to avoid huge losses, which just adds more buying pressure. Traders call this squeeze fuel, and it can act like pouring gasoline on a fire.
And finally, let's talk valuation. Right now, HIMS is trading at around 1.8 to 2 times its expected future sales. So what does that mean in plain English? For a company that's growing its revenue at 50–60% a year and is already profitable, that's widely considered cheap. The market hasn't even fully priced in their current business, let alone this massive new opportunity.
So we've got a great story, strong financials, and a cheap valuation. Let's move on to the really exciting part. Section 4, the bull case. Could this stock really 10x from here? Let's walk through how that could actually happen.
The bull thesis is built on a few key ideas. First, making peptides legal in the US could unleash a tidal wave of demand from people who are afraid to use the gray market. Second, HIMS doesn't need to find customers. They've already got them. Third, that political MAGA branding gives it a powerful narrative. And fourth, if peptides become just 20 or 30% of their business, the math for the stock to be a multi-bagger starts to look very realistic. Throw in all the buzz on social media right now, and you've got a powerful mix.
But listen, we have to keep a level head here. No investment is a sure thing, and it would be crazy not to look at the other side. So that brings us to Section 5, weighing the risks. Let's talk about what could go wrong.
Okay, on the downside, the #1 risk is regulatory. That July meeting is not a guaranteed win. If they delay it or say no, this stock could get hit hard and fast. Second, there are legitimate concerns about the lack of long-term safety data for some of these peptides. Third, there's execution risk. Can HIMS actually make enough of this stuff to meet the demand? They also have a small headwind from their separate weight loss drug business to the tune of about $65 million. And finally, don't ever forget the market itself can be volatile. These are all very real risks you have to consider.
All right, we have laid it all out. The incredible news, the company's amazing position, the strong financials, the huge bull case, and the very real risks. It's time to put it all together. Section 6, our final verdict and outlook. To me, this whole situation screams of a classic asymmetric upside. That's just a fancy term for when the potential reward looks way, way bigger than the potential risk. Think about it. If this peptide thing fizzles out, HIMS still has its core profitable business. But if it works, the upside isn't just 20%. It can be many times what the stock is worth today.
So here's the bottom line. That big jump today wasn't just random market hype. It was a reaction to a real game-changing catalyst. And HIMS is in the perfect spot to capture that opportunity because of its huge subscriber base, its moat, and its genius move to control its own manufacturing.
That combination makes this a very, very real story to watch. Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate question on everyone's mind. With the stock hovering around 24 bucks, is HIMS a buy right now? All the ingredients are there for a phenomenal long-term story, but timing is always the tricky part. What do you think? Is the risk worth that massive potential reward at this price?
And that is our deep dive on HIMS and HERS. If this helped you make sense of all the noise today, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button, give this a like, and share ValueVest Daily. We're here every day to give you these learning opportunities so you can be smarter before you put your money to work.
And one last thing, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me if there are any other high-risk, high-reward plays out there that you want us to break down next. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.